So I think we will get started. So yes, good evening, everybody. My name is Jared. I work for Steps Travel, and I'm your host this evening. So let me tell you what we have in store for you this evening. It is a tour around three of the world's most outstanding wildlife destinations with Paul Goldstein, who is at the top of your screen, I'm sure. Paul Goldstein as your virtual guide. Now, Paul has been guiding clients in these three destinations in the last year, and the images that he'll be sharing with you this evening have all been taken on those recent tours. So I think all of the images you'll see will have been sort of taken in the last 12 months or so on the safaris he was guiding. And what we're looking to cover really this evening, we've got, I would say, sort of three distinct habitats, actually. We're looking at the jungles of India and central India. Those of you that have been following the travails of Mr. Goldstein trekking across the country with a huge fiberglass tiger on his back will know that Paul is very passionate about tiger conservation. And so you can join him in central India in pursuit of tigers with your cameras in April and May next year with Steps Travel. But he was there recently, and there'll be some images of central India. We've also got an oceans habitat because Paul was recently in Southeast Alaska with Steps Travel and some clients, and there'll be images that he can share with you there of humpback whales, brown bears, bald eagles, etc., etc. The third habitat we'll be covering is wetlands. So the wetlands of the Pantanal in Brazil, where Paul has recently just returned, I think literally within a week or so, where despite having a very nasty case of man flu, I'm told, still managed to find 23 different jaguars for the clients he had with him on that group. So it's quite outstanding sightings, I hear. So it probably won't surprise you to hear that Steps Travel is offering a group tour led by Paul in each of the destinations that Paul is going to be covering tonight. And those group tours can be found on our website, all of which are departing in the next 12 months. And I'm delighted to say that I've got a couple of our experts with us this evening. So I've got Charlotte, who's with us. She's our subcontinent specialist at Steps Travel. So if you're interested in joining Paul in India next year, it'll be Charlie that you'll talk to. I've also got Roxy with us, and Roxy is our specialist for Alaska and Brazil. So she's the person to speak to if you want more details of what Paul's doing there in September next year. Now, you've probably already realized that you are all on mute. So if you want to do any heckling, you'll have to do it in a respectable way and use the chat. But I do hope you'll actually use that chat for something a little bit more constructive. Do put any questions you've got, questions for Paul, questions for Charlie, questions for Roxy, any questions you've got about what we're doing over the next 12 months with Paul around the world, then put them in that chat and I will endeavor to get those questions answered once Paul is finished with his presentation. So that just leads me to introduce my old mucker, Mr. Goldstein. Paul and I go a long way back, and he is outstanding photographer, writer, guide, conservationist, and activist. And I would say whatever Paul does, he brings this unique brand of energy, gusto, and passion. And passion is all well and good, but passion alone really doesn't cut it as a wildlife guide. And I think passion really needs to be allied with experience and knowledge. And with Paul, somebody with probably about 35 years experience of guiding, you've got that by the bucket load. These priceless qualities are there in abundance. And he uses them to good effect to ensure that his clients have memorable wildlife encounters. So I'm going to hand over to Paul. Over to you, sir.
Hey, thanks, Jared. Thanks a lot. Thanks, Steps. Thanks, Roxy and Charlotte. Appreciate it. Thanks for tuning in, all of you. So this is it's not a whistle stop, but I've got a bit to get through, and I'm going to do it quickly. I am, as I'm going to start as the three wildlife tours are chronological. We'll start with tigers, move on to Alaska, and then move on to Brazil. Now, in all of this, there's principal signature species. In India, obviously, it's tigers. There are other species you will see and photograph other species. In Alaska, it is primarily black and brown bears, and of course humpbacks, and indeed sometimes killer whales. And in the Pantanal, apart from the very large caiman and capybara and extremely noisy birds, there are jaguars. Anyone who thinks a jaguar is a bit like a leopard, come and see the Pantanal ones. It's like comparing a pretty boy back to a prop forward. They're entirely different animals. So let's start with tigers. So what I'm going to do is a little theme on each destination. I'm going to give you a little best of to start off with. I'm going to cut this out short a little bit, but let's just get you in the mood. This is a best of from past years, and then I'm just going to concentrate on a departure from this year. So try this. Okay, I think I'm gonna bring that little montage to a close and bring it right up to date. So all of these next images are taken. I've gone back to Todoba as well, so it's a twin center safari. And I don't normally like to deal in numbers, and let's be honest, tigers are ferociously difficult to photograph. Number one, because of the I suppose the bureaucracy and the red tape and what some people say is part of India, but is actually a huge frustration often that gets in the way. But also they're extremely lazy, and when they are even awake, they're probably walking around with their mouths hanging open. So you have to work hard for them. And I don't normally like to talk numbers because it's boorish, and people say I've seen 36 lions today, and they're all asleep. But the second safari I did this May, between us, we had 71 tiger sightings. I've never heard of anybody touching that, but this is what happens when I've been doing this for 27 years. Sightings like this, obviously, they work. It's a potential honeymoon couple sizing each other up, and there you see the difference in size. Extraordinary. This was in Band of Gar, and we saw them in good light and average light. And then, of course, it's not just tigers. This is in my ever evolving top 10 avian list. The male paradise flycatcher would always be there. And they're not uncommon. I would say that can be my pop quiz or my bird quiz. If somebody, including you, Jared and Roxy and Charlotte, can tell me, I know what that is. Chris Packham knew what it was. That's your test for you. It's a very young one as well. This is some other bird life, a very large brown fishing owl. And those who've seen lilac rollers in Africa would see how familiar the Indian roller is, and always a favorite with me. In this case, very similar to Little Bee Eater from the Rift Valley, but this is a green bee eater. So there's always time to do a slightly better photograph. Notice the slight crossover there. A slightly better photograph, slightly better background. And of course, in India, you do have time, the most valuable commodity of any wildlife holiday. is time. And there, Matt, if you're tuned in, you took a much better one of this egret. And not just bird life, there's other species as well. Macaque monkey here, and then a a cotton picking langur monkey there. And this next one is the classic case of me thinking it's a great photo, and there is a very good photograph there. I haven't taken it. Probably not even a 2 out of 10, but you can see. And of course, what people say, why are you going at this time? Because you want to find animals around water. And of course, even though they're very much down on the food chain, there are leopards as well. It's a large male leopard here in Todoba, quite late. Again, you see the different facial structure of an Asian leopard to an African one that you may be more familiar with. So at that time of year, yes, it is very warm. Yes, it is only 3 in a vehicle, which gives you a bit of space. On the full days in Todoba, critically, there's 3 full days. That makes a huge difference to sightings because A, you get an extra half an hour each day. B, you can use any route. Otherwise, you are very much tied into the routes. Also, when you have, well, I'll be honest, Papu, my head guide in Bandhavgarh I've worked with for 27 years. And Himanshu, the guide who joins you in either Nagpur or in Delhi, I'm going to say this now, this is the best guide in India. Okay, now you can dispute it, all those people, all those keyboard warriors, all those photo guides out there, you won't find a better one. And the fact that he can work with me makes him a sorcerer anyway. So cats and water. Cats, water. This was on the first one. We did 2 last year. We're doing 2 this year. And this was the perfect scenario because there were just enough insects to make the tiger irritable, but not too many to send it away. So it was just using its tail a bit like a fly swatter there. So that's just a question of, you take water vacuum bottles in, take lots of water, take a bit of food in to keep you going. You just got to deal with the heat. That's it. But that's why we go at this time of year. So as you see here, and then it's I used a longer lens for that one. And just the difference here. And this is a gorgeous morning, last morning of the first departure, small waterhole in Todoba, and in the buffer zone with the wonderful Mangesh and Viraj. Viraj, who I would say knew about the safari for 8 months, postponed his wedding so he can do it. Postponed his wedding so he could do both of them. Viraj, we salute you as one of the best forest guards I've ever encountered. Another thing interesting in Todoba, they banned mobile phones in the park. So, of course, the whole volume of tourists has come right down. I greatly approve. Tigers, water. Okay, so youngsters there with mother in the background and a large male having a drink at the end of the afternoon. And then sometimes it comes together. I'm sorry, that one again, the gormless look with his mouth. But yeah, that's the light you kind of dream about. It really is. And again, this is open country in the buffer zone in Todoba. This was a mother with several, and she's just come through the water and called to them. Again, this is in the core zone. A couple of sort of play fighting, always around water. And this was the real reward. This was the first sight we had of, I'll say now, the youngest cubs I've ever seen in Bandhavgarh. So it's a typical, you're up very early. You're generally back by sort of 10:30 for a very large brunch. And then you go in again. And it is very warm in the afternoon. And often the action comes early and late, or then tigers will thrive or relax by the waterhole, as you can see, just running this through here, which is wonderful. But this was altogether different. I'm going to run through this morning because we had a full pass and we were in the main core zone in Tala, and we'd seen one at distance, and both Papu and I agreed, let's go to Magdi zone. Now you can cut straight across when you're on a full day permit, because we knew, or he knew of a mother with tiny cubs, actually 4, but a long way away. This is 840 millimeters of lens. And so we parked the car. We had a little, some chapatis and some cutlets with chutney, obviously, several chutneys, and some chai. And then I actually had a nap for 20 minutes, and Manjit woke me, and he said, the mother's there, and she lay there. And then after 10 minutes, she called. Just watch this. Okay, if I've been doing this for 27 years, Papu and Manjit probably have 30,000 game drives between them. No, each. They'd never seen this. This mother is teaching these 2.5-month-old cubs to swim. Watch this. The quality isn't incredible. It was big distance. This was through the camera. And just watch what happens. The cubs come out. And we were quite happy with this. Just to watch this was extraordinary. This is my best ever tiger moment. Certainly not the best photographs. Watch this. Beautifully edited, TC. Yeah, it was. It was remarkable. That's probably the only photo. I had the camera on a beanbag, and everyone was very, in the vehicle. There was just a couple of us there, and yeah, and then I took a few on very low ISO, knowing I had to crop them, but I wasn't sure at all we'd see him again. I really wasn't until this. The following week, back in Bandhavgarh, it was just we came into a Katoli zone in the vehicles. Papu and Amit and Vinod, we all thought, come on, let's just see that we know they're around here. And then we drove a bit further to another waterhole, and we saw them disappearing up the hill. And it was like, oh, well, should we leave them? Tell you what, let's not. And we've seen these are fresh tracks. These animals are active. And we went back to where we'd seen them. And then there was only our vehicles there because everyone else had charged into the park, knowing that there was a male lying at a waterhole. And first of all, we heard a couple of warning calls, and then the rustle as their abrasive, the bottom of the mother's feet, came over these dry, dead May leaves. And then they walked out right in front. And yeah, this was extraordinary. Again, this isn't mine. I must applaud Dawn for taking this. And that's 4.
Incredible.
It's never about numbers. It's never about, where they are, but just about portraits, pretty portraits, something like that. I mean, I was so pleased. It was each departure had a special time with them. But yeah, that was very special. Good. Okay. And full days, we actually had a bit of cloud, which you don't get very often, so it cooled it down a bit. So this was in midday on a full day, which was a joy. There was a mother and several sub-adults, about year old, who really gave it. Seeing tigers around trees is just a joy. So this was very special. I enjoyed this a lot because it was just a couple of our vehicles, and yeah. They gave us a spell, and I like seeing them around trees. This is on a full day in Todoba in the core zone with these all day. They didn't do a great deal, but just being within several meters, and also when you think the youngsters were actually inquisitive. There was a couple with us. If you're listening, you know who you are. I'm not going to say their names. Well, let's call one Linnea because that is her name. And this is her first experience with tigers on her first day, and she came in, and this youngster came up within a few feet of her, just inquisitive. No one made a sound. No one was. I think someone used an iPhone or something, just because you allowed them in. Filmed off a camera, and yeah, there was a lot of tears. And those are good tears, and that's really what we strive for. And another thing is when you get these wildlife moments, particularly with death, which an animal that is still desperately endangered, please don't believe those rather trite and glib census figures. And think what has happened to these animals are still butchered and still in the wet markets and still in deep freezes and still on sale, all their body parts. But when you get moments like that, you think perhaps, our days of atonement may just be coming to an end for past trespasses. So those sort of moments and these sort of moments are wonderful. It's a very, very big male in the Tadoba core zone. Just bothered to wake up for about 5 seconds. Yeah, they're decent climbers as well. They like to scratch along trees. This was joyous, and this was sometimes we bob and weave for clients. We had some who came in a day late, so we had to switch the full days. It made it quite a job. But yeah, just driving, we came past this family asleep, and then took a gamble with photography and wildlife, and understanding your quarry is always the thing. And then we just reversed. They came out and walked towards us for about 7 or 8 minutes, straight towards us. Have I taken award-winning photos of Bengal tigers in the last few years? No. Does it bother me? Not in the slightest. One always tries to get better as a photographer, but this isn't about that. Let's think what they've faced. Let's think what they must fear. Let's think what they go through. Let's think of the difficulties. Let's think of the saints. That's why I walk 1,050 kilometers this summer. That's why I've done these things, because just imagine a world without them. I even tried some slow ones. That's not quite there. It's probably a 2 out of 10. It's a bit closer. Wrong foot forward before someone messages me. I know, should be the far one, but that's a big Bandavgar male in the meadow. And the joy of Bandavgar this year is you didn't have to do the really long drives, because most of the tigers were in a couple of areas within about 15-20 minutes of each other. So yeah, a joy. Just a couple of factual things. That's the hotel in Tadoba. This is a pucker establishment. That's a room for one. I don't think I've met a hotelier who's worked harder. He told me he slept till midday the day after we left. But yeah, these are air conditioned. But also what I want to tell you about this hotel is it's very well positioned for both gates. That's the starter. Let me talk you through this for a minute. That is a tandoori paneer with some chicken, a little salsa there, and 4 different chutneys. Jared, I know your mouth is watering here. We've got tamarind chutney, you got your mint raita, tomato chutney, and of course mango. Slightly messily put together, but I felt you needed to see that. This, however, is what I want you to look at. Okay, between us, I don't know how many years, probably 250 years of tiger guiding. That is Himanshu behind me. You can see Papu to my left. He and I go to the same tailor. Our tailor is in Bandavgar. That's where we get those shirts made to measure, 20 quid. In fact, the whole group got some, but I really mean this. Papu's the most respected guide in Bandavgar. Manjit to my right is a forest guard. There is nobody I don't want to be in anybody else's hands than others. Vinod behind, Amit behind that, Himanshu there. That's a team, a proper team. They know how it works. Do you get favors? You get no, but you can't. Nobody does in India, but you can't be in better hands. You just can't. Yeah, that's why I do things like that. That's why it's worth it. That's what's important. That's why you try ambitious photos, taking through some plants there. So I ask you, do you want to be on that vehicle there next May? I hope so. Preferably, I hope you're in mine, actually looking at their faces, not their backsides. Okay, I hope you can join us. Let's move quickly, because I think I'm okay with time. Let's jump continents from Asia to North America to Alaska. Now, this year, this departure went into Spitsbergen in Alaska and out of Prince Rupert. For about 10 years, I would have guests and clients and passengers asking me, when are you doing Alaska, Paul? When are you doing Alaska? And in 2014, I finally found an operator I felt comfortable with. If you just want to go to Alaska and stand on a platform and take photographs of bears eating salmon out of a waterfall, go ahead, okay, because that's not what this is about. I'm not remotely interested in that. the greatest wildlife photographer in the world once said to me, Paul, if you've taken it, don't take it again. That applies not just you taking it. Ideally, you want to be ambitious and no fear of failure. And it is just a photograph. Let's not get ahead of ourselves. That's early morning in Alaska from the boat. Okay. That is not untypical. So a little best of the past few years. So grizzlies, yeah, I was decent on the way up the glacier complex at Tracy Arm. A pair of bald eagles there, one of the signature species there. That is the yacht. That is a rather skinny bear there at Pack Creek. Gives you some idea. A small yacht with the most experienced staff you could imagine that enables you to get in what I consider the two best bear viewing areas in Alaska, maybe anywhere. And I'm not saying that because you have extraordinary accommodation. You don't. Okay, they're simple cabins, outstanding cuisine, but you feel like you're on an actual boat, not some ghastly cruise ship, which unfortunately sometimes you have to go past as these ethically derelict carbuncles, apologies of ships, come past, and they see nothing, absolutely nothing. Here you can get into the key areas that nobody else can, because it only takes 12 total. It's a Canadian registered ship, the Island Odyssey. Yeah, it was a decent one, a couple of humpbacks, and 1 year, we had a marine wolf on White Sand Island. And yeah, okay, so that gives you a bit of idea of what you could see. Let's do it just from this year. That is the Odyssey. As I say, takes 12. Yeah, you're probably only going to have a shower 3 times on the 10-day journey, because we have to carry all the water. We can refill once. You notice there are kayaks at the back there. But in terms of a platform to see whales, it's extraordinary. And of course, it's not just that, it's zodiacs as well. There are 4 staff on board, a skipper, assistant skipper. Then you have a chef and 1 other staff member and me. So you're well looked after. Okay, it's Pilates class. That was a decent one, nice calm day for that, which worked. And of course, sometimes there's zodiacs as well. This is early evening on the way up to a glacier complex. So let's take a look. And that's early morning. We'd often, whilst breakfast being prepared, get out on the kayaks for a bit, good exercise, all for that. But when you have a yacht like this, that is not some bubble netting humpbacks there, but look at that accessibility. Yeah, and also you're low down. You're not going to get that on it. Even these, we have a small ship, and you find out it's 30 people. You can forget getting these experiences. You're not even going to touch it. This is Pack Creek. Let's do bears first. Brown grizzly bears, essentially the same thing. This is early in the morning. Notice the composition, the water a little more interesting than if you have water, you're a permitted reflection. Otherwise, the foreground's generally not permitted. So there is a platform. It's not a platform. It's just an open area with a couple of logs to sit on, where you go to look at bears, where they come hunting the salmon. But of course, also their diet isn't just exclusive to salmon. You have them going along the shore, and if the tide is out, whilst one half of the group is in waiting for them to hunt, you can take the zodiacs out as well, which is what we're doing here. And why are we there? Because that's the sort of site. Now, the group was split on this one, and the moment I saw this mother and 2, she had 3, she'd lost 1, I called the other ones out. I said, come back. Yeah, we're going to come and fetch you. So they had to race back, pack up all the gear, but it was definitely the right call. And why could we do it? Because it's small numbers and because we can. And also the skipper, Brian, who's been doing this for donkey's years, he knows all the stuff. I know Jane, the conservationist there, who looks after the area. But this from the Zodiac, of course, nice and low to get these terrific angles. And a good comedy one as well. So you see the nice branding, guys. And ludicrous camouflage, but yeah, it gets you that sort of angle, which gives you so many advantages. It really does. So that's from the water. That's the area you go to see them. So went back there in the afternoon, and they very kindly let us all in because that because they know us, they know we behave, and it was very hot. So there is a walk you can do for about 5k. If you go up towards the top left, you will see, and it's a beautiful, beautiful walk with a lovely viewing platform. Here's a lot of salmon upstream there, so that was a good thing to do. And also the extraordinary berries you eat along the way, which is what another fundamental part of the bear's diet. And there's also some young bald eagles there. And then when the light got good and it was sunny, it often isn't sunny in Alaska, the bears came to play. Now, there's a slow shutter speed one for you. There is a backlit one for you. And check this. Well, thank you, Jill, a fabulous piece of filming. Check this out. One of them's a very good hunter. One of them, maybe not so much. Not nice for the salmon. And there he goes. It's fantastic piece of filming, Jill. Thank you. Okay, so that was of the same moment. They're picking up the salmon there. That was taken on, big time underexposed, and from it's not hard. You're following it. Some cameras on a tripod. I tried some slow shutter speeds. That one didn't really work. That one a little better, but the focus went on the claw, and that one a lot better. That's at about an 80th of a second, maybe 100th. So yeah, you get time because they're going to do it a lot. And then one that looked more like an Alsatian came in and was a bit scared by some others. The mother from the morning turned up with the cubs, and here she is charging after them. You notice the difference that you would think if a mother loses one of three, she'd lose the runt, which is the one on the left, but she didn't in this case. You see the disparity in size. And then the following morning, before we left, back on the Zodiac for the same thing, Mum turned up again. So that was pretty good. So I'm not doing this actually in order, but let's go from brown bears. There are brown bears in Annan Creek, but Annan we moor outside. Again, they let us all in, which is very kind. That makes a big difference. And you come up and you can walk around an area that you're quite tightly controlled, but we're after black bears here, and there's a set of hides you can go to. And early, there's no one there. Late, there's no one there. Other people flying from Ketchikan, and there's a few more people there, but it's not really a difficulty at all, and you get plenty of time at the business end of the hide to experiment like this. And thank you, Leslie, for this. Just just filmed this one, a really nice piece of filming again. We reckon those bears were taking salmon, I would say, that's a far better speed there, every minute. It is, so you have all sorts of opportunities to experiment, try all sorts. And there were 4 sets of what we call kois, cubs of year. The one gone rather far up a tree, wasn't that comfortable about that, nor was its pal there. So there's a few of the youngsters here. This is and you are so close. You really are. They're interested in salmon. That's why they're not interested in us. But, we behave with respect. This is right below my feet, probably only 8 feet from me, so hardly a difficult photograph. And this is a big male. Yeah, another one there having a good old shake off. That gives you some idea. So there is a fence in between us and them. But on the path up, we've had to stop a few times with bears there and let them through. It's their right of way. It's really well maintained. It's beautifully done. It's well policed, but you don't feel, like it's overly monitored. And it's a long day. Big respect to the parent who stayed there all day, didn't even come back for an outstanding lunch. Really, the food, and it needs to be, but the food on board is exceptional. So yeah, there's a few more. There's I managed to get 2 staying still with a shutter speed of about a 1/10 or something there. That is the area. It is special. Yes, it is. So you have I would say at Pat Creek, about a day and a half with bears. Here, a full day. It's a lot of bears. And there's other stuff to photograph. as well. And that was just a little stop on the way up, just practicing some slow shutter speeds. This is sort of sights you see outside Petersburg. And this. I mean, it's just insane. And listen. The day I get bored of the asthmatic wheeze of a humpback. These are the best whales. Sorry, they just are. I mean, people will talk about obscure beaked whales with a sort of itinerant sense of maritime one-upmanship. Honestly, humpbacks are the kings. They just are. Just before we get to a whale fest in a second, I just want to show you this. This is the way up to a glacier complex. Not a huge complex. Those of you who've been to Spitsbergen or Antarctica will have seen much bigger glaciers, but this is a very active one. So the evening before, a bit of kayaking up to some of the floating glacial ice, big, heavy, dense lumps of ice there. So that was decent activity before we had some dinner, and then set off. You can see the Odyssey to the right, set off in the next morning. Now, I think I've been with people in and amongst ice who just wouldn't have permitted to let us do what we do, because you know these conservation fascists who say, oh no, you've got to be 8 miles from the glacier front, sort of people who send you back on board because there's a bear ashore in the same postal district. That's all they have, is their wanton authority, and they just killjoys. I'm glad that Brian and John and the whole Tio were not of that tiresome ilk. So some seals on the way in, yeah. Exactly. I mean, the lens does foreshorten the distance. Nobody's in any sort of danger. So what you're looking is for carving. This is an active glacier. That's why you have all those different colors along the front. So that's a relatively small carve. And you hear it's like, you first of all hear the gunshot of it. And then if it's a big one, you feel the concussion of it go right through you. And then the birds that have been feeding obviously have to come out. However, this I'd never seen before. And even Brian said this is the best he's seen. This was a carving from underneath. That is ice that's been there thousands of years. So when it comes up, the colors are insane. Gillian's video is probably better than mine because we were moving around and very excited. Watch this. That has come up from below and then shattered against the ice front. It was extraordinary, and look at those colors. Okay, those then came out with the current and came towards us. Yeah, look, these are unprocessed images. I mean it. It was remarkable. So this is called Tracy Arm, and Brian really knows his way about there. And because this has been so compressed, and it's perfect conditions for looking at ice, you don't want a sunny day. It just really, really works. It does. It's extraordinary. Absolutely extraordinary. And what a day. And that's on the way out, that perfect conditions again. And this was on the Mont Glacier. It's where essentially you're saving a bit of time. So we take a fast boat, they pick us up, they take us in for a few hours, take us along. So it's a really good day. Nice guys doing it. And it saved us a bit of time while they refuel the ship. Then we get back on, now it's Wales. That one doesn't work. I tried a slow shutter speed. That's closer, a pair of them. This is an extraordinary thing. It just is. Bubble net feeding. Brian is the bubble net whisperer. Okay, people said, oh, I went here, I didn't see it, I went here, there. Well, come on this. 3.5 days of bubble netting. Okay? Even under sail, there's barely a sound, and we could hear them trumpeting. We had the sound gun out, dropped in the water every time. So the moment you heard them trumpeting under the water, you knew they were coming up pretty soon. You can see the herring amongst them. Yeah, so you can try long lens, medium lens, in this case, a wide angle lens. Thank you, Kim, for this right next to us. You see the herring come up first, and they take them in their baleens, they sieve them out. You can't get this on a big ship. You won't get this. You can't have a rigorous clinical antiseptic calendar or schedule. That'll spoil it. But to have this, as Dan said to me, he said, I could just photograph this the rest of my life. He's on his third one. He's coming again next year. I don't blame him. This was day one. Day one out of Petersburg. Day one. And we have these conditions. Big underexposed. Just beautiful. And every photograph is different. And then this one, Brian is that good. He was even telling us where he thought it was going to breach each time. This is very obliging. 25 tons of humpback, 3 twitches of the tail, and they're up and then down. Why do they do it? There's been so much research, but frankly, it's because they can. Yeah. Look, just lastly, this is exceptional. I said I wasn't going to do it again because of various things, but I'm so glad I'm going back. Going a little bit later in early August because I want to be absolutely sure there's that big plug of salmon coming up. So, and these are sea otters with their young, one holding its baby there. And to give you an idea of, you can schedule all sorts. We're going to do sea otters in the morning, and just when we're watching sea otters, one of these shows up. Thank you, Jill, for this fab piece of video. Perfect. Yeah, well done. Listen, I hope you can join there. Now let's bring this right up to date. He and she types. Okay, a little best of the past couple of years. This one delivers. Yeah, they can climb trees, jaguars, but these are alpha predators. So anything you may have learned about cats in the past. Oh, it's early morning, we're going to see one now. Often you don't. They're top of the food chain. But cats and water generally is not much of a cocktail. No, the river of this complex are their roads. So there's a little best of. This is how you want to take them. It's one of my, I love it when they appear just above the hyacinth. Or when you see them walking along, you can't see them, but you see the hyacinth twitching and knowing you're in the best boats. Now, this is important. This is down the Rio Negro. That is Medrosa. She's one of sisters there. She's a real player there. She's the one some of you may have seen that jumps out of trees onto unsuspecting caiman. But to find them in the water, I will say that one we christened Van Gogh for obvious reasons. The day I said earlier to grow tired of an asthmatic call of a humpback, or the day I grow tired of a jaguar swimming virtually next door to me, is the day I'll hang up my binoculars. Yeah, so there's your little best of. That was last year. Fail, didn't get anything. Messy background as well. Yeah, it's at a quarter of a second as it hunts along the edge of the Cuiaba River. Yeah, there's your best of, and that is my favorite. Medrosa, again, jaguar portrait. And that's the best thing I've seen with a jaguar. People say, I mean, jaguar and caiman, extraordinary tussle, but seeing one with an anaconda in its mouth, yeah. Okay, so you fly to, just one last thing, Alaska. Next year, we're doing it into, let me get this right, into Prince Rupert, which I prefer. So you've got the bigger sea day at the beginning and out of Petersburg. So that's the area of more action. Means you get into Annan Creek early. So for here, going in September, towards the end of September next year, and you fly to Sao Paulo. It's a long flight. You can fly British Airways or LATAM there. And then you fly to Cuiaba. It's a couple of days. And then you jump on the bus. It's 2 hours 20. About 2 hours before you get on the Transpantanera. This is this extraordinary sandy track that runs the whole way down. And you stop off here at Araras Lodge, owned by Aquila and Andre. They are the mother and father of wildlife tourism in Brazil. This is their lodge, okay? It's just a very cool place. It just is. A lot of species there. And that is probably, we take down the pictures, as you can see at the end. That's on the last night where we do a wrap up. We have a photo competition. I'll put a wrap together with some nice food and drinks. It's one of the loveliest places you can do that. And then you generally don't fly out till the next day, till quite late. So you can do some walking. There's a pool. Yeah, this is a nice place. So we top and tail with that. Because when you're down on the river, we stay at Joffre because it has the best boats, the best staff, the best position, and yeah, the rooms are okay and the food is okay. All right, but this place is wonderful. Now then, it used to be a place that you would find scat or you'd find prints of jaguars. Okay, check this out. This was 10 days ago. That is 1 minute from my room. Andre's had to put some fencing up now. There has never been history of jaguars and humans conflict. Let's be clear. But this is a 3-year-old male. You can hear the people, oh my. And he's kind of turning up every week. If that doesn't appeal to you, or you don't like the thought of it, or it scares you, please look elsewhere for a wildlife holiday. I think this is magnificent. And he is very excited about it. He's put the fence up. It's a duty of care. You know, you get somebody who, so if there's an incident, you scare the animal. We don't want that. But wow, what a thing. Okay, this is important. That is your boat. There's a huge 110 Yamaha on the back there, so you can be somewhere quickly if you need to be. They have radios, they don't overuse them. You'll see the awning. That can be up in 10 seconds or less, and down in certainly less. That's critical. It's up to 37, 38. It's very powerful sun. A lot of people wear snoods over their faces because that sun's powerful. You need that boat. If ever there was a holiday that you could do cheaper, a wildlife holiday, it's this one. Yeah, you can. And I can show it to you, and you'll see why. Okay, if you want to have experience, look how low that is taken. You can't do that on 80% of the boats. You can't. You can on ours. You're right. That one's just a metal. There's no awning, and there's 10 people on it. You don't believe me? That's how we look. I don't want that when I'm photographing. I don't want all that. I don't want 14 people on a boat. Yeah, of course you'll pay far less for that. And someone's just got to burp, belch, fart, sniff, sneeze, and your photo is going to be soft. And also, you got no space, you got no shade. There's always a cheaper way of doing it. I really, as you can tell, I feel strongly about this, and we've been honing this for a long time. I do not believe there's a better way of seeing jaguars. I really don't. And if I have a mother and a youngster swimming across the river towards me, I want to be low. I want everybody to be able to photograph. I don't want, moments like this or that. That was pretty cool. Messy background. Or indeed that. I don't want someone spamhead in the way when I'm trying to photograph. I just don't. And imagine if you're there and you got somebody next, you got no room to move. Yeah, but you paid a little bit less. It's a false economy. That's what we have. That gives you some idea what it's like. Some beautiful clouds. So there are 5 people on that, including the magician, Juanito. This matters. Juanito and I go back to 2012. He's in the middle. Berto on the left. There isn't a better spotter in the Pantanal. I'm going to say that because I've heard it's not just my words. It's been my guests every year and countless other people. Berto and Wilson are a heck of a team. Very professional. They have the best boats, the best engines. They have the awnings. You're comfortable. We take ice cold drinks out with this. Akila gave me a whole cooler bag of treats and avocados and cold cuts and soft cheeses and all sorts. It's important because you're up early. You're up at 4:45 and you're out by 20 past. Obviously, the first boat's out. It goes without saying. You know the drill. But yeah, it makes the difference. It does. There's other things. Obviously, this is a Jibaroo store. The slow shutter speed on a Jibaroo there. It's got more than it bargained for there. It left that one. And they're giant river otters, which are huge. And if there's a number of them, they can see off a jaguar. Slow shutter speed on them, and of course the caiman, which form you wonder why the jaguars in Central America are half the size of the Pantanal ones. It's because these guys are, imagine the protein content in a caiman, which is like a smallish crocodile. So caimans are always good value, as you see here. And Bert turns here again. And this was a new one for me. This is a skimmer. Again, in my top 10 avian lexicon, the skimmer is always there. You notice the lower mandible. That's how they fish. They sieve through the water. And I've never seen youngster. That's only a few days old. As you see there, right? There's a slightly older one there. Messy photograph. It's got to tuck its wing in. Here they are. And that's what they do. That's how they hunt. Sieve through the water. Yeah, it's, what a bird. What a bird. Herons, black-headed topped herons here, and these are neotropical cormorants. Good separation. And they're first thing in the morning on the Rio Negro. And there is one in action catching a catfish there. However, we joked about this so often. That is the best tree to photograph a jaguar in the world. Sorry, it just is. All right. Last year it had creeper all over it, not anymore. And this male was up there almost every morning. And initially Madrosa was there, the female. We saw, as Jared pointed out, I think 22, 23. Well, 23, because I think it was myself and Kevin and one that we went for a pee, we checked, and way in the distance we could see one. So I think two of us may have upgraded that wee, but yeah, that was pretty cool. Not remotely interested. As I said, there's never been conflict. But yeah, this tree every morning, we'd find it. You go in, cut the engines, and there you go. So, I mean, how many can you take? Lots and lots and lots. It's just the perfect portrait. Slightly gammy right here. Sorry about that. Aesthetically, a little disappointing. But yeah, and of course, we see them. Okay, it's not, oh, we're going to see any today. No, we do see them. Every year I've been going since 2011, I think it was. We've always seen them. And it seems to have got a bit better. And also the boats behave. So people say, oh, there are too many birds. No, they behave. But if you work a bit harder, as always with wildlife, and go out a bit longer, you do well. So I even tried some slow shutter speeds with them. That's a bit better, that one. Wrong leg again, kicking up some water. And as I say, this was the perfect afternoon. Watched this one for about an hour and a half. We were tucked in the shade. It woke up, had a swim, cooled down. Another one wakes up, has a drink. This was extraordinary. Just look at this. This was towards the end. And I remember I just said, I think we're going to get one more. And this huge female, huge male, one I'd seen in 19, and it just turned up. The light was perfect. These next photos were taken over 1.5 minutes. Look at the difference in color. You've got that lovely warm color, even warmer there, and again, getting really low, which you can do if you're in the correct vessel. Research, it's all about research. Look how the colors change just over that. Just remarkable. And then slightly, he's a little bit boss-eyed there, but yeah, and the last vestige of light. And then I even tried a slow one. That was 1/5 of a second. It's about the only one that worked. I wasted many gigabytes on that. And that's on the way back. Yeah, it's that's your days. You go out in the morning, you come back for a big lunch. There's a nice pool there. Have a swim, try and cool down, a bit of air conditioning, and then come back. Well, hey, guess what's up the tree again? A sulking male jaguar. Here you are. Have a look. You should just take them with a smartphone. That's it. There's the peaking shot. I don't know whether Ali's listening. Yours was probably better than that one. Disappointing, the nose breaking the line of the trunk. Yeah, there he is again. This is the female. Really not remotely interested in us, which is a good thing. That's, again, what we want to see. And then the male comes down, has a bit of a pad across, thinks I might be able to, he's reasonably hungry, a bit like a hyena, you never see a thin one. Swims across in front of us, swims across in front. This was gorgeous, right into the sun. And with wide lenses, you can often get great shows with that. And then a big underexpose as it came towards, again, slowing it down. And this was the last morning. It was gorgeous. A female that was looking around over its shoulder vigorously. And yeah, then a male turned up. Just look at it is. As I think I wrote the first time I went there, everything's loud. The chakalaka birds have the loudest call of any bird I've heard. Everything is loud. The kingfishers are loud. It really is. Even hearing the jaguars, a mating pair, you hear that guttural rumble of them. I think my final line was, everything's loud down here and a river runs through it. Which it does. This was a youngish one, didn't like the insects, so like us, swatting at them in the water and obviously getting nowhere, whilst looked on, sort of indulged by its mother. Here you see the two of them together. That male is getting similar to mum's size, Patricia, she's called. Not big on naming animals, as you know. Yeah. Slow down shake. That is the Rio Negro. This is very typical. It is prolific, it is fertile, it's beautiful. Virtually every photo is different. It's not just big game, it's small. You see the cormorants off there. It is staggeringly beautiful. This is the first morning. In the morning there, and this is the first afternoon. That's coming off a different tree. Again, a different time with that tree posing there. And taking scent there before cooling down. Then taking through the hyacinth to this male. and then as it picks its way through the intricate, manicured, almost tortured and gnarly tree roots. And this was, I don't think I've ever taken a jaguar in these conditions. Again, it was just extraordinary. You just found it late, and it was beautiful. So let's finish with this. This is what the Pantanal is. Okay, you want to be in that boat? I think you do. I think you probably prefer to be in mine again, looking at his face. All right, guys, I think we're just about on time. I got a note saying I've only got 5 minutes left on this talk, but perhaps we'll do some pictures. You can bring me back in, however you do it. How's that?
Paul, thank you so much. And you've
fine.
literally just unfrozen. You were frozen for the whole your image, that is, for the whole presentation.
Oh, was it? We don't know. I mean, you've got pictures like that. You don't need to see my face.
Well, exactly that. And critically, we could hear your voice. So, all good. I'm not sure what my favorite image was there. So many to choose from. I didn't realize the common theme would be water throughout as well, which makes such a big difference, doesn't it, to the images you got?
Oh,
but I think if I had
massively so,
yeah, I think if I had to say one of the favorite images would be the ice. The color of that ice was just extraordinary.
Honestly, Jared, as you know, I've spent several years of my life in the polar regions. Oh, by the way, please can you make sure I don't cut off in 1 minute 53 or whatever it is? That'd be embarrassing. But seriously, I've never seen colors like that. Once I can't remember, off Deception Island, there was something that had been spouted up from the Antarctic ice shelf, which was that different colors, but never the richness of that blue. It was extraordinary. It really was. And it was just like, oh, well, come on, we'll do a glacier ride. And it just turned into something remarkable. And big respect.
That was partly enhanced by the sort of overcast conditions.
Yeah, it can't be too dark. But if it's grey, but there's a good deal of brightness and you get a lot of bounce off that, that is much the better conditions for photographing ice. Always. If it's absolutely blue sky, yes, it might be fine for vacuous Instagrammers. And sorry for the tautology. But it doesn't work for me photographically.
We've had a few questions in the chat. Thank you, Sarah, for your questions. And this is something I know you're keen to sort of talk about. And the question of, do I need lots of high-end photographic equipment as a sort of mandatory requirement for joining one of your safaris? Do you want to answer that?
Yeah, it's great. It's such a good question. The last 7 safaris I have led, every single one has had at least one person that is not a photographer. I would say that the common denominator with all of them is they have very good binoculars, number one. Number two, they're extremely good with their iPhones. You saw that wonderful piece of bubble net. That was just taken on an iPhone by Kim. And also, a lot of them have the little holder for that smartphone. Because I always say with photographs, think you're showing it to a 13-year-old niece or nephew. What are they going to prefer? 20 seconds of action on your phone, or, oh, here's another one of the humpback. Oh, yeah, you'll notice there's a herring by it. So I think a lot of them like to film as well. But the other common denominator, they're a joy to guide. And also, they just like the way we go about wildlife. You work really hard to find it. You don't rush off once you have.
Yeah.
So no is the answer. However, if people are keen to get good at this, you can get as much advice as possible. I would probably say I get, I don't know, as many as sometimes 10, a dozen emails a week about people wanting advice on what should I buy this, should I try this, should I try that. I mean, it's easier than it used to be. Mirrorless cameras make it a lot easier, but it's not, to get that photo is hard. It's challenging.
There is a question in the chat from a Mrs. Trellis, North Wales, obviously. She's asking about whether you give any sort of tips and help with regards sort of production, using Lightroom, that kind of thing.
Yeah, good question. There's time on any of those departures. There's time. I mean, I think almost the weather dictates that, but in Alaska, for example, in the evenings, everything slows down. The captain sleeps up in the bridge. It's a small boat. You go to your cabins. I mean, it's no problem. People want to stay up, but it's quiet. And anyone wants to spend a bit of time with the laptops. It's really is comfortable. It's authentic. And yeah, absolutely. Some people are very good with it. They say, here, Paul, I've got, a dozen photos in a collection on Lightroom. Take a look at these. And other times, of course, in India and jaguars, of course, there's time because the heat will push you inside for the middle of the day and also in the evening. So yeah, absolutely. I must say, I will always show a dozen or 2 dozen of my images, which I've done in the evening, because I want people to learn off it. But it's much better if I'm commenting on their images, obviously, because yeah, it's my métier more. But yes, a good question.
Okay. Well, we're getting to sort of 8 o'clock. Sort of time for us to probably go on and have something to eat. Hopefully something as delicious as some of the food you were showing from India there.
Oh, Jared.
Yeah,
I'm telling
that
you.
looks pretty special.
I mean, and listen, for years, where we stay in Bandhavgarh, I've stayed there for 26 years, Nature Heritage. It's got a lovely pool now, and the food's good. Don't get me wrong. The mango lassis are ridiculous. But this place, and I might add, this was all down to Himanshu. We were booked to go somewhere else. And he was like, no, do you know what, Paul? I'm not sure this hotel's up to it. I'm going to change it. And so he did. And this place is just a lovely rooms, but the food, we never really got beyond the starters.
Yeah.
Really not. And we thought of a dozen. Go on.
I was just going to say, I think you are renowned for pushing your clients hard to get the best shots that they're capable of getting. But let's not forget as well, this is a holiday, and food is such a big part of it.
It
and
is.
I know there's a lot of fun and banter along the way as well. But you encourage.
No, I agree. And the meals in Alaska are fantastic. She is an extraordinary chef. And the food in India, obviously, it's outstanding. In Brazil, no, I'm not going to pretend it's great. It just never has been. I don't want to eat catfish again for another year. But yeah, it's fine, it's okay. And the chefs are great. I've known them for 12 years. So I tell you what, Paul, let's try something different. And we noticed that another group got steak, egg, and chips for lunch. We're like, how'd you get that? Oh, it's someone's birthday. I'm afraid to say we made up someone's birthday. And what a gag that was, Jared. All day. Oh, your special day today, Dennis. Oh, and we even did a card for him and a poem. And what a special day to see 6 jaguars on your birthday. And that was nice, Andre arranged that day, actually, that we went upriver and we had lunch somewhere else, really nice lunch in a tiny little fishing lodge, because that's how jaguar tourism started. It was all game fishing down there, and somebody was cutting up a bit of bait and he threw a bit of fish onto the bank just to get rid of it, and a jaguar came out and ate it, and then the next day he did it again, and the next day he charged people for it. So that's pretty much how it started. So yeah, it's good. You just feel in all 3 places you can't do it better. Sometimes animals, there's luck involved. Of course there is. But yeah, it is important. And that's pedigree. You've been doing it a while. You do the best. But just going back to your other point. Yeah, I do push people quite hard. Nothing gives me more pleasure than one of them absolutely, nailing, absolutely sinking, draining a magnificent image. But I'm tough. I've given 1 7 out of 10 this century. There you are. That's true. Not to me.
Well, I've been fortunate enough to be guided by you in the past, and I've been with lots of very, very good guides around the world, but I don't think I know anybody quite so committed to helping his clients get the best photographs and just the best wildlife experience that they can get. I kind of made light of the fact that you had a rather nasty fever when you were in Brazil recently, but that still didn't stop you going, really the extra mile every time just to get those wildlife encounters that your clients are looking for. Who was the 7 out of 10 for, by the way?
Oh, I will tell you. Yeah, very good question, and it's a photo from a while ago. It was actually of a lion with tiny cubs, and of course it was beautiful light. And the temptation was just to take all of them. And they were clambering over the mother and all sorts. Superb. And this guy, he just took over 200, and which isn't that many. And every single one was at a ludicrously low shutter speed. And then backlit, this cub jumped up to the mother as she moved away at the same speed. And he nailed it. Both whiskers, head, eyes were sharp of both animals. It was a work of art, and it would never be repeated because it can't be. That's what a slow shutter is. It was bold, it was audacious, it was no fear of failure, and yeah, it was fully deserved. I mean, it was a slightly grudging 7, but yeah, it did deserve it.
Good stuff. Well, thank you everybody for coming along this evening.
Yeah, thanks for tuning in.
Yeah, and just to remind you, Charlie and Roxy would be very happy to have a chat with you about joining one of Paul's trips that we've got happening next year. I think my colleague Charles shared in the chat a link to Paul's page on our website where you can see all of the different safaris that Paul is leading with us. And do give us a call if you'd like one of our team to come out and chat to you about your travel plans. We like nothing more than doing that. We can come and have a coffee nearby wherever you live. As far as the Paul Goldstein trips that we've got coming up are concerned, we've literally just laid on a new India departure. We've got one place left on the late April trip, and we now have a second departure in May. I think, Roxy, was 3 bookings the last time I looked for Alaska. Those places go pretty quick. We've only got about 11 maximum on that trip. So really important that you get in touch with us to get that booked. And September with the Pantanal, we have spaces left on that as well. So do give us a call. Do look on our website. And thank you again for joining us this evening.
Just thank you, Charlotte. Thanks, Rox, and thanks, my old chum. Just 2 last things. This is being recorded, isn't it? And so those friends of yours who missed this, we can do something about that, I'm sure. Secondly, Jared, obviously by trips you meant safaris and voyages and expeditions and pilgrimages and and all of that. Yeah, thank you.
Bit my tongue as I said the T word. Yes, yes.
The T word. A trip is to Wetherspoons or the post office. And look, lastly, of a very mild October evening. Yeah, I know it's here, and you're watching this on your phone or your laptop, everything. Yeah, it's something I always say. That is the easy bit. I hope you can join me and these extraordinary teams, and I would include Roxy and Charlotte in with that. Definitely extraordinary teams that just go the extra yard. And 35 years of doing this, that's the single most important thing. Research. The best photographs and the best holidays are because of good research. And people say, how'd you take that photo? Look, 50% of it is research, then no fear of failure, then ambition, and then boldness. 5% is pressing the shutter, 5% is processing it. And if you carry along like that, yeah, you got a chance. Thanks, guys. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Paul.